Hey guys, welcome back. Today is part number 5 and the final part of this EA-18G Growler build. So today we're going to wrap it up. We're going to do the last few bits on the aircraft, the aerials, the gear, the doors, that kind of stuff. And then we'll do the final reveal. So let's go ahead and get started. Hey, welcome back. And we are almost there. It's the last few finishing touches. So since the last episode, last week, I went ahead and, as you know, took the mask off the canopy. There's a little bit of residue and dirt on there. So I just cleaned it up a little bit using my usual Novus #1, which is plastic clean and shine. Now this stuff's like water. Literally what I do is just put a drop here on my plastic cutting mat. And with a Q-tip, just dip it in. So it sucks some of the liquid up. And just really buff it away on the canopy and get it shiny, which did a great job. So we did that, and then really now ready to do the gear. So the gear's all painted up, ready to go. It's like I said, this kit's pretty easy to go together. It's just one piece, and then you paint the wheels and add the wheels on. Oh, focuses. Now a little tip here: getting the wheels together. The main gear actually has a centerpiece, which is separate, so you paint that separately. It makes it a little bit easier. So paint this white, paint the obviously the wheel black, and this insert just goes in the middle here. It's a really tight fit. So what I did was I literally laid the wheel on my cutting mat, and using a popsicle stick, just really put it down, and then flat pressure, just squeezed it down, and you hear a click, and it clicks right in place. No glue needed, just clicks right there. So just a little tip there. So before you attach this landing gear, just put the wheel flat on your mat, and with a popsicle stick or something flat, just press it in and it'll click in place. One thing with the gear too is I really like to use, well, most parts, but really like to use a clear coat, a flat coat before I install them. Really just protect the paintwork. I find often with gear, especially under the top, bottom of the wheels, that kind of stuff, as you move them around the shelf or just handle them, they get chipped and paint can wear away pretty easily. So let's make sure I do a really good clear coat on that. As always, it's XF86 for me. So these wheels are ready to go. The gear's ready to go in. As you know, this is pretty much like a snap-tight kit, so I'm not going to even use any glue. The parts are painted. I'm not going to need glue because I think they're going to be a pretty good fit. So let's flip her over like that, and we will start with a nose gear. And you see it has a round attachment and a square peg. And you could pull. If you want, you could just pull this off again. It's just attached with a clip. It's not glued, but I think I can squeeze underneath it. So I'm literally just going to find those holes and squeeze it in. Okay, this is the front one in, and the sides. Again, you have really big attachment points. So make sure I get the right side. Just slots right in, and that's going nowhere. And the other side, again, just clips right in. Okay, so the gear is on. Easy as that, no glue needed. So I'm going to go ahead now, next stage is I'm going to get together the doors for the gear and put those on, and then I'm going to track back through the instructions and start looking at some of the points where we've left parts off and we highlighted it, such as pitot tubes and small aerials, those kind of things. So I need to kind of get those together, and then we'll start applying those too. Those will need to be glued. They won't go just snap tight. If I put it down on the bench, there you go, sits down nicely. First time on the wheels. Okay, so let me go ahead and start getting some of these doors together, and we'll start putting those pieces on too. Okay, all the gear doors are on, no problem at all. Has huge attachment points, so they just literally clip in. These use a little bit of super glue just to kind of make sure they're in there, not move around because they're quite tiny. One thing is this guy right here on the front. You might want to put that in before you put the gear. That makes it a little bit easier. If I just used some tweezers, but I got it in no problem in the end. So all the gear doors are done. What, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pieces in total. I'd like to paint those on the sprue. This makes it easier. Paint them and I do everything on the sprue, because then when you come to apply it, you know exactly what number it is. So if it's like number 12 or 14, like kind of what side it goes on, it makes it a lot simpler. So That's kind of why I like to do with the gear doors. That's on. I don't think I mentioned about the nozzles. Nozzles were put on too. They're not even glued. They just clip right in there. Perfect fit. So with this kit, like I mentioned, a lot of the stuff just clips on. Once parts are painted, if I can get away with no glue, I'll do that, because these are really tight fits. They're not going to fall off or anything, like pylons and nozzles, that kind of stuff. The little parts, I'll do with super glue on. Don't use extra thin, because it's going to damage the paintwork, and it doesn't like painted surfaces that well. So my rule, anything painted, super glue, or white PVA glue, or like I say, with the case of this model, we just clip them in, and they're not going to go anywhere. So very close to the end. So all we got left now is literally a handful of little aerials. This kit doesn't come with any kind of glass work to the lights and stuff, so all we got is a couple of pitot tubes, well, 2 pitot tubes, an aerial, so 1, 2, 3 things. We added those on already, these little bumps, before we painted the main fuselage. Looks like we have 2 aerials on top. Not sure what that part right there is. So it looks like really 1, 2, like 5 little aerials. So I'm going to go ahead and paint those up, those 5 little parts, and then we'll just literally apply them again. Huge attachment points for them to go in. And then once those 5 pieces are on, I just need to look for instructions real quick. I think we're finished. So let me go ahead and do that, and I'll come right back. Right, so we've got the pitot tubes on the bottom, 2 on the front here, metallic colour, and the 1 aerial. Now these 3 little aerials, they do not fit in the holes. They're not a little bit too big, so I've had to cut the bottom off. Believe it or not, the gods must be looking down on me today, because no build is really complete unless you lose the parts of the carpet monster. And one of these little aerials went pinging off across the room on the carpet, and I was like, okay, we're done. We're going to have to probably scratch build something out, some plastic card, or do something like that. And then lo and behold, after 5 minutes of my hands and knees searching, I found this tiny little aerial. So the last piece we can now fit. Like I said, I've trimmed the bottom off the tab because it's just a little bit too big to fit in the hole. So I've got a little super glue on here, so I'm just going to dip it in the super glue. Then it goes right in the hole. Make sure I get it straight. And there she is. Last piece, we're done. So let me clear up my bench, and then let's do a final reveal and talk about how this build went. We're back, and I went and got the beautiful wife's cake decorating, turny, spinny thing, which only means one thing. It's final reveal time once again. This guy is done. I'm happy with it. I'm not ecstatic, but it turned out okay. I think I could have done a better job of the painting, but we're done nonetheless. It was a really nice kit. So again, this is the Academy kit. You see the box in the background. 72nd scale growler, and we use the 2 ops decals. Rather than just going with a normal kind of plain dark and light ghost grey, we went with this kind of Centennial Naval edition with like kind of lightning bolts and the light and dark blue with the grey underneath. This was a very kind of tricky paint to get the dark blue in particular. These shades, the only colours I could find were testers. So we went with the tiny little testers, jars, paints, the little 8 ounce, little 8ml, I think they are, or ½ ounce little containers. I'm not an enamel paint guy personally. They spray okay, but they take forever to dry. As is the case with this, each coat took 3 days to dry, whereas when I'm using lacquer paints or lacquer paints or acrylics, literally you can mask in a couple of hours and you're good to go. Lacquer paints, they almost dry instantly if you do thin coats, especially with rapid thinner if you use that. But enamel paints, it really kind of sucked the mojo out of my build a little bit. I work at a pretty fast pace, and having to painting was fine, and then let it 3 days and paint it again, that was okay. But the problem was when I took the mask off, it despite using Tamiya tape, it did bleed. I never have any bleed problems normally, but it did bleed, and then so every time I did a little touch up, again I had to let it dry for another 3 more days before I could touch it again. So that just really drew out the process of painting and kind of sucked it out a little bit, how it went. But we didn't kind of go crazy weathering at all. We just did a simple pound line wash. We did grime color for the underneath and the grey parts, and light blue. Didn't work so good on dark blue. Dark blue is notoriously hard to weather, so we went back with some grey wash on top of that, and kind of picks the parts out a little bit better. So yeah, one thing to notice, I didn't realize when I started building this or when I reviewed it, but it's actually somewhat of a snap tight kit, which means you can probably put most of this together without any glue, to be honest with you. It's designed probably for those people who return to the hobby, or kids, maybe see this Jet the Air show or whatever and want to get a kit of it. In that case, I highly recommend it. It's superb. I mean, you see the pound line detail and the weight, shape, and everything. It's better than the Hasegawa normal kit. It just means there's pretty large attachment points. Some of it's pretty crude, especially in the gear. But again, obviously it went together really well. It just clicks together. I did use glue for most of it. Some of the parts which are painted at the end, we didn't use glue for obvious reasons. We just kind of snapped those pieces together and they fit no problem at all. So yeah, it's moving around a little bit to kind of show you some of the other area. Not much options on this kit. As I mentioned previously, you have to pretty much as you see it. You can't do the canopy up unless you cut it. You can't do the drop the flaps or the horizontal stabilizers or anything like that. It's pretty much as you see it. Did go a little bit different on the actual scheme pictures I have of this. Just has a center tank, which I'll show you in a minute. But I went ahead and added the side fuel tanks and a couple of pods to just kind of pad it out a little bit. So looking on the underneath, typical grey color. See, it has like nice markings on that center fuel fuel tank. And once the parts are in, you can see what I mean about the gear. If I can zoom good enough, I'm a little bit close. So it's a little bit crude the way it attaches, but at the same time it attaches super easy. I mean, it just clicks right in. I did use glue just to hold it, but I mean, somebody who has dexterity issues, these smaller scales, or like say kids or whatever, it makes it super easy to build. You're not dealing with super tiny bits. They're pretty, sizable connections and stuff. This gear isn't even glued. It's just kind of just clicks right in. And there you go. So that's it again. So it's actually a pretty nice scale, 72nd. It's it's not tiny by any means. You can see it's probably about that usual kind of foot long. But yeah, I did enjoy it. But like I said, the enamel paints did kind of spoil it for me. If you go out of the box, that's a really nice scheme actually on the box here with the black on top. Then you just go with the usual greys and blacks, and you can use whatever paints you want, I guess. But again, if you are going with a special scheme, it's really hard to get these two shades of colors, and enamels was the only way I could go for me without mixing a bunch of concoctions up myself. So that's pretty much it. So as always, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this build, and if so, I will see you next time. Goodbye.